boy, here we go again. The Last of Us Part 2, a very controversial game. Probably the most controversial game of all time. And it doesn't matter if it's 2 years that already have passed since the launch of The Last of Us Part 2, and the game selling well over 10 million copies in less than 2 years, there is still discourse on the internet on if this game is still a masterpiece, if it's just good, if it's just decent, if it's bad, or even flat out terrible in the worst piece of media ever created. Like literally, anything you can imagine people on the internet has said about this game, well, most likely it has been said already. And the discourse on this game has become so toxic to the point where I would honestly recommend not engaging with people who speak ill or good about this game, because you seriously don't know what you're going to get. If you are expecting actual conversations to actually happen about The Last of Us Part 2, you will seriously be disappointed and most likely will be bombarded by absolute heinous shit, especially from those people who make it their mission to hate on this game and hate those who like The Last of Us Part 2. So, why am I making a video where my intention is to express and pinpoint reasons why I absolutely love Part 2 if I'm potentially going to receive extreme hate no matter what? Well, because I truly want to make this video my final say on The Last of Us Part 2 so I can just mentally move on from this game and talk about other games that I love, because Part 2 just keeps living rent-free in my mind almost every single day. Also, if this video can serve to show why it's loved by other people as well, that would be awesome. Plus, I really don't care about the toxicity, to be honest with you, because at the end of the day, those who choose to abuse others instead of actually trying to discuss about what they really feel about this game will just be ignored. They just expose themselves as how miserable they really are, they're trying to look for attention, and they don't have the capability to properly communicate what they feel. If you loved or hated The Last of Us Part 2, that is 100% fine, and I would love to actually hear what you feel about The Last of Us Part 2 in the comment section down below, on my Twitter, or via my free Discord server where you can join a safe and respectful community to discuss about our most loved and hated games with the link in the description. So make sure to like the video and let's get started with why the hell I loved The Last of Us Part 2 so much. A game that gave me a story I honestly did not want, but a story that I actually needed to experience. The Last of Us Part 2 was a story I did not expect to get. I think I can speak for a good chunk of people that loved it or even hated The Last of Us Part 2 that they feel the same way. Most of us expected Part 2 to be a story about Ellie and Joel, with the story focusing on their bond and about Joel's decision to massacre the Fireflies, lying to Ellie about it, and seeing the repercussions of Joel's actions. We expected to, of course, see a story focus on hate, but not to the degree that we as the audience would be tested the way we were tested by Naughty Dog. I mean, the fact that Part 2 was even being developed in the first place was something that a lot of us were actually worried about, because we thought Part 1 was just so perfect in almost every single way. We just did not want Naughty Dog to run the risk of tainting what is possibly considered the best story ever told in video games. But because it was Naughty Dog developing Part 2, we all had faith in them that they would do everything in their power to give us something special. And for a lot of people, that was just not the case. And to be honest with you, I almost sat at the table of people who hated this game. But because I gave it a second chance and decided to complete Part 2, at the end, I was seriously grateful I did not stop playing this game, because at the end, it impacted me in ways I never expected and brought out emotions I never experienced in any other form of media before. The story of this game was so powerful, so grounded, so real that I could not stop crying while playing this game. If you felt the same way about Part 2, well, drop a like to see how many people felt the same way. Now, it's not just me that felt this way playing The Last of Us Part 2. Content creators like Decken, Dom the Bomb, and Tajay have felt similar things about Part 2, and I would love to show you what they have told me about this franchise and what does it mean to them, especially Part 2, before I tell you what The Last of Us Part 2 means to me.
Last of Us Part 2. Wow, I do not think I'll ever be as hyped for a video game ever again that I was Part 2. Well, we'll see what happens when they announce Part 3. I don't want to jinx it. We'll see what happens. Funny thing about Part 2 as well. So, early pandemic, I wasn't able to continue my job as a substitute teacher, so I'm unemployed. Things were looking rough, and I mean real rough. But making videos about Part 2, before, during, and after launch, helped me get my YouTube, revenue up. and it was a contributing factor to helping me get by through a tough financial time, and also a contributing factor with helping me get a PlayStation 5, which is like, bro, making videos about my favorite game series really helped me with that, and that's the mind blown. That's crazy. I mean, I even met AP through part 2. Like, this is wild. Whoa. Part 2 is also in my top 5. Initially, I had a mixed reaction to the intro. I felt that it's kind of similar in aspects to part 1, but all in all, I love part 2 in its entirety. I mean, I have over like 300 hours in the game, and I haven't even gotten a platinum. I mean, I know how to plat the game, but just I keep replaying it and, you know, enjoying the story, and wow, I feel like part 2's story doubles down on kind of what part 1 did. To me, Ellie forgave Joel. Ellie in the part scene says she would like to try. With her, you know, love overcoming hate. Ellie's love for Joel overcame the cycle of violence. Bro, this shit. Bro, okay, relax. Yo, I can't even articulate myself because this is. Her leaving the guitar. I mean, just moving on in her life. That's her, you know, finding hope and purpose, I feel like. Abby, too, finding hope and purpose with Liv. Because, you know, killing Joel did not bring Abby closer. We can see that from playing the game. And, that, bro, I feel like, yeah, there's a lot to be told in a potential part 3 with Ellie and Abby. And, wow, I hope that they do return if they make a part 3, but, yeah. And just, okay. I'm having a hard time articulating myself right now because there's a lot of emotions going on here and stuff like that. But anyway, I've been going on a tangent. Part 2 fire. Helped me out in life. Met great people through it. We grateful for that.
So thank you, AP, for featuring me in this. The Last of Us Part 2. It's a game that I hold a lot of thoughts towards. It's a game I've had to play multiple times. I think I've played it over 10 plus times. I have over 300 plus hours on the game. I've done on hard, survivor, grounded, permadeath, full game, permadeath, part game, per act. I've beaten it so many times now, it's like I could probably call a speaker instances. I've had crazy glitches. I've had amazing moments. I've had a lot of people angry at me. I've had a lot of people happy at me over certain things of how I thought about the game, and I've definitely thought differently about it now than I did when I first played it. You know, when I first played it, I wasn't necessarily as on the fence as probably the other people, and that's okay. And, you know, I was really sad about what happened to Joel, you know, but I loved just the whole journey, Ellie's revenge, the whole cycle, how it all went full circle to me. The combat is just out of this world and always gets me back to playing it. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of the story from a personal standpoint, I love the combat. Abby is probably my favorite to play as just because she is a tank when it comes to combat. Her weapons, meleeing with her, it's just so much fun. And Abby, I think, is a character that when I started, you know, didn't really like that much. But as I played more, I finally started to say, hey, you know, I came to a reason. She's not the best to me, but she's not bad. She's an okay character to me. And that I think, was something that was true growth that I had to play multiple times. And I always preach anyone that, you know, has feelings about this game, if they want, play it multiple times. Then you'll come to a better understanding with it. But side characters pretty good in this. I would say, you know, Dina, Jesse, man, Tommy. I love Tommy. He's probably my favorite side character in this game. And I do hope that Naughty Dog does a part 3, because I feel like after the ending of this, there's a lot of room left open for some more stuff. I hope you all agree with me. Thank you again, AP, for featuring me, bud. Appreciate it.
All right, hello everyone. It's Tajay. I'm sure a lot of you probably know me. If not, I was a very consistent The Last of Us YouTuber from about 2019 up until even up until after the release of The Last of Us Part 2. And you know, the franchise, of course, it means a whole lot to me, but specifically, I have to say The Last of Us Part 2 probably means more to me, only due to the fact that, like, again, I built a whole community on YouTube, and it was very, like, interactive, and it was just cool to see other people have, like, a really high interest in the same thing as me, because in real life, I don't have many, like, friends that are really, okay, I have friends, but I'm saying I don't have any, like, gamer friends who, like, are really into super, like, story-driven narrative games. They most likely just like to play, like, 2K and, like, Call of Duty and stuff like that. And for me to go online and just like start from zero and talk about this game, I was really excited for, because at the time there wasn't really anybody who was really like, I thought was really uploading good content about the game. So I thought I'd go ahead and do it. Just to watch something go from like zero to what it was really awesome. And I got to meet devs from the company. I got to meet a whole lot of you guys who also love the game. And it was just a sense of just community that I really enjoyed. And I think that's why Last of Us Part 2 means to me most. Like, that's why it's important to me most. I mean, because like, again, it's not even just about the game. It's just about like the anticipation, the excitement, the discussion, the people I met, the connections that I've got to get with PlayStation, and just such cool things. And I think that's why it means a lot to me, just because of the people for the most part. And yes, of course, I love the game, but I think just that community aspect of just the interaction and the excitement and the discussion, it had to have been the best part leading up until the game.
Thanks guys for giving me your honest thoughts about The Last of Us Part 2 and what these games mean to you. So I think it's now time for me to tell you guys why this game means so much to me and why I love The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 will always sit in my heart as one of the most impactful games I have ever played. From beginning to end, it was a roller coaster of emotions, making me feel things I have never experienced in any other form of media. Just the first minutes of the game were giving me a taste of what to expect of this game. The graphics, the cinematography, the performances, the facial animations, the music, the gameplay, everything about this game was absolutely amazing. Seeing Joel and Ellie again before the 4-year time skip, picking up where we left off, seeing Joel keep his promise to Ellie and sing for her, something that she wanted him to do since part 1. Here he is, singing for his daughter, a song that is essentially the theme of the whole game.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself. Everything I have found here, I'm not found by myself. Try and sometimes you'll succeed to make this man of me. All my stolen missing parts, I've no need for any more. 'Cause I believe, and I believe 'cause I can see our future days of you and me.
Those words, if I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself, is what this whole game is about. About how love can essentially turn into hate the moment you lose those who you love, and how love can make us do crazy things. It can unite us with something special, but it can also destroy everything in its path if not careful. If you were to lose those who you love, you could essentially lose yourself. It is exactly what happened to Joel in part 1. He lost his daughter Sarah in the beginning of the pandemic, and Joel lost himself for more than 20 years, becoming a ruthless killer in order to survive. The same thing happened to Ellie when Joel was killed by Abby right in front of her. That man who she rejected and treated badly for almost 2 years after she learned the truth died before she could even have the opportunity to connect with him again as father and daughter and try to rebuild their broken relationship. Ellie hunted Abby down, killed every single person that crossed her way, and even lost her family, completely losing who she is on the inside in order to accomplish her desire to avenge Joel. The same thing happened to Abby when she found out that her father, the surgeon, was killed by Joel and lost herself in feeling her desire for revenge, to train as hard as she could, even participate in a group that plans for faction genocide just to accomplish her goal in avenging her father's death. These 3 people are victims of what love can do to us. Only those who truly love run the risk of losing themselves to darkness the moment they lose what is precious to them. And when we lose ourselves, our ability to understand others becomes almost non-existent. This game made me experience Joel's cruel death in the perspective of Ellie, feeling my own desire for revenge and making me lose myself in that desire. Joel was a character I loved. He was a character that I identified with, and was a character that showed me that no matter how broken you are, you can always learn to love and trust again. I, as Ellie, killed everyone in my path to reach Abby. All I had in my mind was Abby. Where is Abby? I need Abby to appear. I need to kill her. I hate her. I want to fucking obliterate her. I started to feel exactly how Ellie was feeling, looking for every single excuse to stay in Seattle and kill Abby. Dina is pregnant? Nah, fuck that. I want Abby dead. Jesse thinks we should go and find Tommy instead of Abby? Nah, fuck that. I want Abby dead. And I wanted that more and more the more I saw the flashbacks and saw what was taken away from us. That special bond between Ellie and Joel. And as you can see, I wasn't keen on putting myself in Abby's shoes. I wanted her dead. Nothing that she would say would ever justify for me what she did to Joel, because I just don't care. I want this bitch dead. But then I started to waver just a little bit, and the only reason that happened was when I saw how Ellie, even though she killed every single person in her way, every single person that tried to kill her, I know most of those deaths were all in self-defense. I mean, the WLF and Seraphites are all shoot first and ask questions later type of people. So if they died via Ellie, well, it's their fault for being like that, to be honest. But then I saw Ellie torture Nora to pinpoint Abby's location, and ever since that moment, I started to feel just a little bit off, because I was thinking to myself, wait, this isn't Ellie. What are you doing? And then I remember, shit, the Future Days song. Ellie is losing herself. Ellie is not the same little girl we once loved. Her desire for revenge is taking away her compassion and is creating a monster in Ellie that is sucking her into darkness, into a place she's never been before, and will probably never come out of it until it's too late. That's why you see Ellie just completely silent and shocked when she returns back to the theater after torturing Nora. She can't believe what she just did. Ellie is right there, reflecting and just in disbelief and doesn't know what to say. But shamefully, after a good night's sleep, that feeling of guilt just goes away, because her desire for revenge starts to overcome that feeling of guilt and made her go to hunt down Abby once again. She made excuses to go find Abby, and in the process she ended up killing Owen and Mel, who she later finds out is pregnant, making Ellie drop to a whole new low and seeing the consequences of letting her desire for revenge and that darkness take over her heart. At that point, even I was done. I know Ellie wasn't done, but this whole revenge thing has taken the lives of so many people, and it's just not worth it anymore. All I wanted for her at that time was for Ellie to go back home and recover from what she did in those 3 days in Seattle and just move on. She has a girlfriend in Dina that loves her, a great friend in Jesse that cares for her, and Tommy, who resembles the man we all loved in Joel. Ellie is not alone in this, and with the help of her loved ones, she could move on. But life isn't that simple. Whatever you do in life has consequences, and even if Ellie wanted to move on, she has to face those consequences as Abby shows up to avenge the lives of her friends. Abby kills Jesse and pins Tommy to the ground, making me forget 100% of Ellie moving on, and all of a sudden that desire of revenge comes back rushing in, and I get excited and I can't wait to just finally beat this bitch down. But then Naughty Dog turns the tables upside down and makes us play as Abby to see the world from her perspective on those 3 days in Seattle. Now, remember when I said that when we lose ourselves, we lose the ability and the need to understand others? Well, this is what was happening to me right here at this moment. I couldn't for the life of me understand why Naughty Dog wanted me to play as the killer of my favorite character. Why they want me to just humanize someone that I considered a monster and just an awful human being. Somebody that I, and I can imagine so many other people, wanted dead. And with time, I understood why. It's only when you hate so much that you have the potential to actually realize how blinded you can become. My hate for Abby was so big, it blinded me to the point that I did not care that Joel killed her dad. But in reality, I should care. At least that is the right thing to do. But we humans aren't wired that way. We are biased creatures, bound to defend those who we love, but hate others for doing the same exact things. I would be a hypocrite to be okay with Joel killing whoever he wants to kill, but treat Abby to a different standard. And I know that what Abby did to Joel was unnecessary, cruel, and flat out disgusting. But that is what falling into darkness does to us human beings. We become somebody entirely different and lose ourselves to the point where we don't even recognize who we are. We all have the capability of doing unspeakable things, and in most cases, we only realize we took things too far when it's already too late. I started to understand Abby wasn't really that unforgivable person I had built in my mind, because she was like Ellie and Joel were as well. Joel and Ellie and Abby were just victims of the world of The Last of Us, a world where no one believes in helping each other, a world where no one believes in forgiveness, a world where nobody really believes in the act of trying to understand where others come from. I mean, to be fair, we, the audience, already live in a world like that, a world filled with hate. But what protects a lot of people is the laws that we have in place, and at least we all have access to psychiatric help to deal with our demons. In the world of The Last of Us, you're free to do as you please, and you don't have anyone there to actually help you deal with the issues and the traumas you face in a world like that. The more I played through Abby's section, the more I got to the understanding that this was Naughty Dog's goal all along. This is what trauma does to people. It makes us lose ourselves, and more when we lose those who we love. It's not simply to say revenge is bad, don't do it, but to also try and see who was open enough to put themselves in other people's shoes, and also showcase how before and even after traumas, we can still have some good inside, only if we choose not to be blinded by hate any longer. And although Abby got to the point where she was no longer blinded by the end of the game, it did not happen overnight or by herself. She received backlash from her own loved ones, like that scene at the end of Abby's first day where she finds Owen and he starts to explain how he's done with being blind. He proceeds to tell Abby that he defended that old Seraphite because that old man just gave up. He was done with the mindless fighting. He was done with the hatred. He was just ready to die and give up. Owen couldn't kill him because he realized at that moment how meaningless this war was between the two factions. Owen was telling Abby and us, the audience, that all this conflict was unnecessary, showcasing the theme of losing yourself because of hate and being blind to it once again. Of course, Abby couldn't understand Owen, or probably did not want to understand him, as she mentally wasn't ready to hear what he was trying to say. It was only when Owen exposed Abby's hypocrisy by calling her out on what she did to Joel that things started to change for Abby.
What?
Nothing.
Sorry I grew up. You should try it.
Oh yeah, how do I do that? Should I go find the people that killed my family? Cut into them? I could torture them until they're crying, you know?
Owen's words cut deep into Abby, because it was probably the first time in a while where someone that actually cared for her told her the truth right at her face and exposed her for her hypocrisy and her bullshit. Abby wanted to justify so much that what she did to Joel was the right thing to do, but that couldn't be further from the truth. And it was why she goes out of her way to protect Yara and Lev, two kids from the enemy faction, and starts to fully understand what Owen's story was all about. There is no need for wars and hate if you just get to the understanding that when you open yourself to the possibility of actually getting to know those who are different from you, you may be surprised that those people aren't as as bad as you were led to believe they were. Which, if you think about it, it's something that reflects the political climate of today. Because of agendas and the hunger for power are the most important things to those people who are in power than actually uniting the nation. We have constant cultural and political wars that just simply can be solved with dialogue, humility, self-accountability, and a desire to do good. Those things can honestly solve so many issues, but yet again, we humans aren't wired that way, and conflicts that we see like the WLF and Seraphites are just bound to keep happening no matter who is in charge. That right there was Abby's section in a nutshell. A journey about a girl that did so much wrong for the last 4 years, but because she learned to love and trust again, learned to understand she's imperfect, learned that what she did to Joel was wrong, learned the ability to understand that others aren't as bad as she was led to believe, and in consequence, because of all those things that she learned, she started to understand the true meaning of perspective and managed to get in touch with that little good that she had left in her heart, just like Joel did in part 1. But then again, life isn't that simple. Everything you do in life has consequences. Yes, Abby learned a lot and she grew to love again. But because of everything bad she did in the past, that past came to haunt her. Owen, Mel, Nora, and Manny all paid the price for her actions. Same thing happened with Joel. Yes, he learned to love and trust again, but he lost his life in return for what he did in the hospital. Because although you have gotten to a point in life where you have grown as a person, others may not have gone through that journey at all and will be blinded with hate. Knowing all of this is why it makes it extremely difficult when we see the battle between Ellie and Abby. It's honestly the hardest thing I had to do. I cared for both of them. I did not want any of them to fight. I learned to forgive everyone involved in this situation. But even if we grow, we all have the tendencies of just falling back to our old ways and repeat the cycle of hatred and violence. It only takes one person to be in control of their own emotions, or a person that lost it all, to finally understand this cycle must end. Abby was about to fall back to her old self and lose herself. And if it wasn't for the relationship Abby built with Lev, and Lev reminding Abby that this wasn't the way, Dina could have died. Ellie could have died. Which would mean that anyone close to these people could come back for revenge, and the cycle of hatred would just keep happening forever. So Abby decides to free them and break the cycle of hatred for good. Another reason why this happened was because Abby knows what it is to accomplish her goal for revenge. It doesn't fix anything. It only makes things worse, and it can make you feel emptier than you ever felt before. That is why it hurts to see Ellie 1 year later deciding to leave her beautiful family behind to pursue Abby once again. We as the audience already know and have the understanding that revenge will not solve anything as we saw Abby grow. But Ellie doesn't know this, and seeing one of her favorite characters give in into the darkness that is in her heart is extremely sad to experience, but it's something that would happen in real life. We as the audience see it as illogical. Why would Ellie do this? But to be honest with you, when have we humans ever done the most logical things all the time? We are animals guided by our instincts and emotions. If we were all logical, nothing bad would ever happen in this world. But that is just not the case and will never be the case. We are easy to give in into the things that destroy our lives forever, and we only realize it when it's too late. And that is exactly what happened when Ellie spares Abby's life. After everything she went through, at that moment, she understood Abby's death would accomplish nothing. It would only bring emptiness to her and sadness to Lev, which could continue the cycle of hatred. With letting go of Abby, Ellie could finally be free of that emotional burden she's been having for more than a year and rescue that little bit of humanity that she has inside of her. It cost her her switchblade, which was her only connection to her mom. It cost Ellie her 2 fingers, which makes her ability to play guitar extremely difficult and was her only connection to Joel. And she lost her family in Dina and JJ, which was her only connection to happiness. But at the end, she could finally move on from this darkness, let go of everything that happened, and understand that at the end of the day, Ellie did the right thing. The cycle of hatred, the cycle of revenge, the cycle of violence is finally over. The Last of Us Part 2 wasn't just a game. It was an experience I and many others will never forget. It's a story that honestly will never stop living rent-free in my mind. I have never played a game before that made me go on such an emotional roller coaster, made me cry, made me happy, made me sad and miserable, all at the same time. I've never played a game that has taught me so much and impacted me in ways that I can truly say changed my life forever and changed the way I approach life as well. It made me understand the true meaning of perspective, exposed my own hypocrisies and biased tendencies, and gave me a better understanding on our humanity. It's not every day you can say that about any piece of media, and at least for me, that is what The Last of Us Part 2 did for me, and is why I absolutely love this game to bits, even though I know it has some pacing issues and some structural issues. But no matter what, this game is special to me, and it's an experience that I wish I could experience it for the first time again, just to feel everything I felt playing it for the first time. In the words of Joel,
If somehow the Lord gave me a second chance at that moment, I would do it all over again.
this game is a flawed masterpiece, in my opinion, that deserves to be talked about, and hopefully one day the toxicity surrounding this game can ease, so those people who love this game can freely express what The Last of Us Part 2 means to them. That is why I try my hardest to make this channel a safe space for people to express their feelings about any video game they want to talk about, no matter if it's positive or negative, and no matter what your ideology in life is. We all are different and consume media different, and that is okay. Whatever your opinions are on The Last of Us Part 2, make sure to let me know in the comment section down below, on my Twitter, or via my Discord server. Remember, not everyone is as bad as we are led to believe. Everyone deserves to be heard, to be understood, and to be loved. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content like this in the near future. Endure and survive, my friends, and I'll see you guys next time.